he gives you an answer on Harold Perkins, which I really was going into the press conference hoping that this was not going to be the answer about Harold Perkins. I was really, and not for Perkins' sake, and nothing against the kid. I don't know him. I've never met him. He seems like a fantastic football player. He seems like he's got a ton of swag, and he seems like if I did know him, I'd love him. But
my son, I
don't know him, and I was hoping that he was in trouble. Just full disclosure. I was hoping that he would tell me that, yeah, he got into a little bit of trouble, and we had to kind of
in-house
bench him for the first part of the game. Like, whew, okay. So thank God that nobody in the coach's offices was coming up with a plan that schematically was going to keep Perkins off the field. So to go back to yesterday, Brody's last question, Harold Perkins, why did he play as much as he did on Saturday, Coach? Just kind of on the way out. He was mainly moved to play an outside role this season, and Tennessee spread us out. We were playing full nickel, and his position was used less. We didn't want to move him inside for 1 week as a freshman. We expect him to play more this weekend and the matchup versus Florida. When I heard that, I was so discouraged. I was so let down. I was so just kind of busted, in the sense of the air had been let out, because I cannot believe, after watching 5 games of LSU play and throwing just about something new at this guy every week. If you look at Harold Perkins and the way that he's grown into the role that he was playing when he got to Auburn, at that point, he was in his 5th collegiate football game, and he had started at 3 different spots. He had started at stand-up defense. They just put him on the outside and just let him go rush the passer to start. Then they put him at middle linebacker. In the Southern game, they were down so many DBs, they started him at the nickel. And now he's been moved to outside backer. So for you to be on that level, and I don't want to draw attention to this, but it just kind of gives the idea and the scope of the level we're talking about, and make the amount of money that's being paid in that room, the head coach, the assistant coaches, and for them to have the data that they have on LSU defense, and for Harold Perkins in the 6th game of the year to be schemed out off the field is inexplicable, man. That is, to me, that is a Les Miles. That is unexplainable how DJ Welter is playing over Kendall Beckwith in the 3rd straight game. In the 3rd series that Harold Perkins wasn't on the field Saturday, and he is in good standing, and he is in good health, and he is not playing, how do you explain that? How in the hell can you look at your team and keep one of the best players on the shelf? That, to me, is one of those coaching moments that's tough to overcome, man. That's something that will stick with me in the sense of, how does that happen? And then to go out and explain it as if it makes any sense. That does not make any sense. That Tennessee was going to spread LSU out and Perkins didn't fit on the field. He's one of the best players on the team, if not the best. He's in the discussion of being a top 3 player on LSU's team in his 6th game. And it doesn't take $10 million a year and 30 years of coaching to see that. It doesn't take some master evaluator to look at LSU and say, good God, 40 is different. So much different that he cannot come off the field. There is not a scenario, a scheme, an opponent that makes sense to me or to anybody that I've talked to that knows a lot of football, a ton, that heard that answer yesterday and said, okay, now I get it. I get why he's not playing now. I mean, do you know the emphasis that was put on to sign Harold Perkins in the last 2 weeks of signing day, up to the signing day push for him? The amount of recruiting, the amount of time that people had to put in, the amount of time that not just the coaching staff was putting in on getting him to Baton Rouge. You know, people like our guy, our friend, Gordon McKernan, he's involved with Harold Perkins, right? He's one of, Perkins is one of his NIL athletes. It was stressed to Gordon how important Harold Perkins was and meant to the program. I'm not making any accusations. I'm just saying let's all open our eyes. Harold Perkins was a big-time recruit. Everybody in the country that wanted a defensive player of his status was coming after him. People like Texas A&M, Alabama, LSU, Georgia, all these people are trying to get in the mix on Perkins, right? And for him to be schemed off the field after 5 games of what you saw and hearing that explanation yesterday, man, that was discouraging. I'm not melting. I'm not saying that, that Brian Kelly is not the guy. I'm just saying that is very discouraging to watch LSU look at that defense, watch the way that Perkins plays, and have a scheme that keeps him off the field.
You don't think he could have helped against the little screen passes running out there?
The second play that he was in the game, he got a holding call against him. They were like, holy shit, this guy. Who is this guy?
Don't put him back in.
Keep him out of the game.
Put 33 in.
He's only got 8 more plays to go, Coach. Don't
and
worry.
Look, I don't want to look back and melt down, but that is a very concerning. To me, the 2 most concerning things that I'm looking at when I see LSU without overreacting, without trying to melt, I think that LSU's moving in the right direction. I think their recruiting is on base. I think their recruiting is stacking players for the future, that it really looks good. If you look at the freshman class right now, you're looking at guys like Perkins. You're looking at both those tackles like Emory Jones and Will Campbell. You're looking at a guy like Mason Taylor. You heard the remark of what Brian Kelly said yesterday about Walker Howard. It's the same thing I told you yesterday morning about what I've been hearing about Howard since week 2. He's the best quarterback on this team. Kelly pretty much said it without saying it yesterday. I believe it was Jacques. Jacques asked him about Walker. I mean, he said he gains more knowledge every day. He believes he's better than any quarterback we have. He is, which is awesome, and you want that. But he respects everyone in that room. We have a good feeling about him. And if you were listening to that, you didn't see the facial expressions and the body language of Kelly when he was talking about Howard. I mean, he perked up, and that line on the end, we have a good feeling about him, was kind of like, we got a good feeling about him. It wasn't like, it was kind of like, we don't want to let the cat out of the bag, but this guy is special. And I know the reaction was, so why don't you play him? It's what we've talked about. They don't want to go misdevelop him, put him out there too soon. The thing that LSU really wrote the narrative on when developing quarterbacks. Come to LSU, we'll kill your confidence. We promise. We've got a laundry list of names that we can show you that you've done it to. They want to make sure and be fragile on the development of Walker Howard, right? So putting him behind a brand new left side of the offensive line in the swamp ain't the formula to get him right. Things are moving in the right direction there. The 2 most concerning things that I've seen up to this point is, first, special teams. The fact that they're still continuing to make mistakes, and he gets to the podium on Mondays again, and he's covering for Polian. Like, everybody has to be accountable. We get it. I understand. But how are those conversations going between Kelly and Polian? And it seems like Kelly's he's taking the bullets, which I respect. He's making the money. He's the guy that's out there on Mondays. He's not pointing fingers. It'd be easy for him to get up there and point fingers, and we've seen people do it, right? If you've covered LSU for a while, I mean, you've heard Paul Maneri, you've heard Les Miles, you've heard people just get up there and say, look, it's that kid's fault. Or it's that coach's fault. He doesn't do that, and I respect that. But the special teams thing is concerning. And it's obviously something that behind closed doors is, I would love to be a fly in the wall on those discussions. To hear what they're really like between Kelly and Polian, because it's just the mistakes are very elementary. Every time LSU makes and gets onto the field from a special team standpoint, you're holding your breath. Right? Like, I mean, it's what could go wrong type feeling. And then the other thing would be this Harold Perkins thing. This is a big deal to me. I mean, like, I don't want to blow it up and make it, world breaking news, or that the program's going to crumble over it. But the fact that nobody's in there evaluating, looking at this guy and saying, hey, guys, coaches, fellas, we can't keep him off the field. He can't play 9 plays versus Tennessee. And I'm not even talking about reacting to the 9 plays that he played against Tennessee. I'm meaning, like, you got to go into the game understanding, like, he can't play only 9 plays. But we don't want to move his position. Get the hell out of here. Put him on the field and give him an assignment and tell him to go master it. He has done it to everything that you've asked him to do. I mean, if you were watching him early in the season in kickoff team, punt team, he's the first guy down there. Florida State game. Southern game, they play him at nickel. Mississippi State game, out there just like dogging people. New Mexico, flying around. Auburn, huge pick. Flying around again. Tennessee, 9 plays. Whose fault is this? Who is making that decision?
Don't worry, you'll get a heavy dose of him. This scheme makes more sense for Harold Perkins to play.
And watch what he does to Anthony Richardson. There's only one guy on LSU's team that can spy Anthony Richardson. One guy. That's it. It's 40.
40 and white.
Put him out there and
go eat.
Like, look back at Tennessee and ask, what the hell were we thinking? Let's not ever do that again. Like, this, you got an opportunity here of that's the type of stuff that can never happen again. How many of you showed up to LSU games between 11 and 14? And this, I love DJ Welter. I think he's a great dude. He's a phenomenal person. He's a good football player. But the fact of the matter was that he wasn't better than Kendall Beckwith. And it didn't take John Chavis's experience to look at that and be able to judge that. I mean, how many of you showed up and watched Kendall Beckwith make a play on the special teams or on a third down and be like, what the hell is going on? Like, why don't they play the best players? Why don't they play the guys that make the most impact, the biggest impact? Well, he doesn't fit into the scheme. Coach, come on, man. Come on. That's overthinking at its finest. He doesn't fit the scheme. You're not scheming with the San Francisco 49ers defense. You're scheming with, you're looking for dudes. That's a dude. There's no scheme in this system that should ever keep him off the field. That was concerning, man, to hear that.
Well, what would you expect him to say?
That he was suspended. I mean, like, make it up. I was praying that my guy had skipped a class, that he had missed a workout, that he was late for something, just so he would have been like, no, we would have loved to have played him, but we just got rules and procedures we got to stick to. Okay, perfect. Not that he was mainly moved to play an outside role and Tennessee spread us out. We were playing full nickel and his position was used less. Coach. He can't come off the field, right? I mean, there has to be somebody inside those walls saying, yo. No, you can't. We can't scheme him off the field and replace him with who? A guy that's not as good as him? And it's not a knock on anybody there. It's just he's different. And when you got those guys, they got to play. They have to play. And for them to be excused off the field because of what was explained yesterday felt very Les Miles. I mean, that felt very, and I don't think that Brian Kelly is Les Miles. I think Brian Kelly would run circles around Les Miles. I don't think that he is, in the same category as the Hat. But those are the types of decisions that made Les Miles Les Miles. Where, it was like, hey, man, what are you looking at? What could you look at that you could say, Perkins ain't playing today? I mean, like, huh? Especially when you go down 20-7. Like, you got to have your best 11 out there.